Welcome to Synthaholics. This is your host, David Duncan, and with me, as always,
Brian. Hello, David.
Hey Brian,
It's
how
a
you doing?
bittersweet podcast today.
It's definitely a bittersweet podcast. One of our favorite new shows, your favorite Star Trek show, has ended.
Yes, it has ended after 5 seasons. The show has consistently also just been like good too, you know. But this seems to be the end of an era for Lower Decks. But we had to. I think we're like pretty, aren't we? We're pretty topical with this, aren't we? We're not. Like it just ended recently, right?
We're not a year and a half late like we were with season 4, I think. So we're more
How late are we? A couple months?
Yeah, a couple of months.
Well, to be fair, I don't know if you or I knew that it was airing when it aired. I didn't know, at least. I kind of just watched this show like when it came out. I didn't watch like really any trailers or anything. It was just like we found out that like Lower Decks was airing. We're like, oh, okay, time to watch Lower Decks then.
Well, I didn't notice it was airing until I started seeing YouTube videos, people talking about how Star Trek Discovery is no longer canon due to the events in this show, this season of Lower Decks, which I thought was interesting. So Brian,
is that official?
It's not official, but it's definitely heavily implied.
There's something's going on.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, people say it's wishful thinking and da 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 da. I don't know if there's any official stance from Paramount / CBS on this, but according to the show, we see our Klingon in our universe get blasted by the thing in the second to last episode, or no. Second to last, the last episode, he gets blasted by the field.
Well, the last episode is like a 2-parter.
Yeah, and then he turns into he turns it purple. He gets the white armor. That's like a Discovery Klingon. It's obviously a Discovery Klingon. And the way it works is that it changes things into alternate reality versions of what it is. So he turned into an alternate Klingon, which would imply Discovery is in an alternate universe. And the ships turn into Discovery Klingon ships too. So I mean, it's until they come out and disprove it, I guess that's my belief. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Brian, your overall thoughts for Lower Decks season 2?
Overall,
just your score for the season 5. What is your
season 5
your review?
I mean, Lower Decks has been like super consistent the entire time. Every season I've watched, I've always enjoyed. This is the only Star Trek that like I would just like, if we weren't podcasting on and I knew it existed, I'd watch it. But I don't remember what I give every season, but like this is like as good, if not a little bit better than than other seasons. I would give it like a 8.5. I didn't really even think about giving it a rating until right now, because it was just like, I enjoyed watching it. I don't know. I just didn't even think about rating anything. So sure, we'll go with a 8.5 because multiverses are kind of get stupid.
Well,
David, what do you say?
I'm going to go ahead and give it a 9 because this is probably my favorite season. I felt like this season had like no filler. I feel like all the other seasons had like at least an episode or two of filler that weren't super connected. And I felt like this one, everything had like some kind of link to another episode, which was really nice.
I agree. I don't even like, for a favorite episode or anything, I don't even really have one. It's just kind of like the whole thing kind of just felt like it all just worked, I don't know. It was just all good. I don't really have any complaints. The last 2 episodes were a 2-parter, so I would just consider that one. All the other ones though, they're just solid episodes, man. Do you have any do you have a favorite one or anything, or what?
I don't even know if I can pick a favorite this season. Like,
same thing.
in past seasons, I was always like, these were the worst episodes because they were like one-offs. They didn't really like the peanut hamper episode. It was mostly about peanut hamper. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like it was a meh episode, but like this episode, everything was just like on fire. Like I thought the Upper Decks episode, if I had to pick an episode, I'd go with Upper Decks being my favorite, because it was just, we finally got to see what the command people were doing, because that's typically your Star Trek show. You follow the command crew, and like so the entire time our lower decks people were just off doing something else. We followed like the main bridge crew around. So I thought that was pretty fun. So I liked that. I had to pick one. I would say that was my favorite episode, just for the novelty of the show switching to more of a classic Star Trek, setup where you're following the bridge crew. So yeah, I thought that was, if I had to pick one, I would probably say that one.
If I have to pick one, I think man, I don't know the name of it. What was that one they went to, like that like creepy spaceship place? Oh man,
I think it was Starbase 80. I think it was just called
Starbase 80 or Starbase 86 was, I don't know. Whatever, that one was probably my favorite. I like the show that just doesn't like take itself seriously. They're just like, I don't know, they just like will like lick the wall or something. Like it's not a very like super serious show. It's just fun. That's why I like. I just want fun.
You had the dolphins come back in that episode. The first time we see the dolphins in a while.
Did come back. Yeah. We got to see a little bit more about these dolphins.
Yeah.
What's the story with the dolphins? Like, why do they keep showing? Is it just like an Easter egg? It's an Easter egg from like normal Star Trek, right?
I mean, I think on screen that there was like a CHGN ops, like they had it shown somewhere in Next Generation, like as it was as a place on the ship, but you never went there. You never saw it for real. You just saw it like it was listed as a place on the ship. And because it was listed, they just made it in lower decks, and they have their own little thing they do in the water. So they're their own officers. So I thought that was pretty fun that they made it into a real thing.
That's what this show is. It's like lower decks. It's just fun.
It's really fun.
I will say that my least. Go ahead. I don't cut you off.
I was gonna say, like, the 2-part finale is also like up there. It's like neck and neck with the upper decks one, because they man, you're missing so much context whenever you're when you're watching the show. Like the fact that they keep running into Harry Kim's, and that like Harry Kim is always an ensign except for the one that became a lieutenant. Like it's just like it's a joke in the Star Trek community where people like constantly rip on Harry Kim. There's like memes of Harry Kim. It's like, 7 years still, but you're still an ensign. Like it's just absolutely ridiculous. He's like the most worthless character. So there's just dozens and dozens of them of the multiverse who never amounted to anything.
It's aware of itself then. So it's not just like pulling jokes from like other Star Trek shows. It's pulling it from like community stuff too.
Kind of, but I mean, he never got a promotion the entire run of Voyager. So 7 seasons, he never made it above an ensign. So that's why when the one got the junior grade lieutenant pips, everyone's like, "Whoa, you're not an ensign, Kim." Because it's just it's just he's kind of a ridiculous character. He like dies in one of the episodes of Voyager, and they bring him back by like one of his clone, like some alternate universe clone. Like it happens often. So it's just there's kind of layers with the Harry Kim going on with that.
But at this point, I feel like I'm probably missing like 5 Easter eggs per episode.
Yeah, you miss at least that many. Oh, Klingon Pop Warriors rated us with 7 people. Yeah, we're actually talking about Lower Decks season 5 today, guys.
Yeah, we are talking about.
We really love.
Even though I don't know much about Star Trek, I do know stuff about Lower Decks, and it's a good show.
Trying to fill you in on the Star Trek stuff as as it comes up,
as we approach it.
But the Harry Kim stuff was great. He was voiced by his actual actor. T'Pol in that episode was voiced by her actor.
Really? What about the Data one? Data's like a big character, isn't he?
Yeah, Data was voiced by Brent Spiner. Yeah, he was.
Is that the Data guy?
Yeah, Data, just his head in that one episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was voiced by the actual guy that played Data. Okay, yeah, that's cool.
The purple Data on the Purple Enterprise.
They're keeping it real. They're not just like, getting AI to make it sound like these people or whatever.
No, yeah, they're getting the original voice actors. I did not look up to see if Curzon was the actual Curzon Dax. I don't know. I feel like the actor was kind of old back in Deep Space Nine. I don't know if they had to replace him.
He might be dead.
Yeah,
Well, if he's dead, yeah, there's not much you can do. We're not going to be able to resurrect him and
but
bring him back.
I assume they used Curzon because his actor was still alive. But I did not look that up, so I can't verify that because everyone else they used living actors and they reprised their roles.
Sure.
So
sure. I will say I didn't really like Boimler this season. I was kind of annoyed by him that he just like saw himself in like episode 1 or 2 or whatever that was, and then the whole season he just spent trying to become like himself.
His
it was it was like every time you saw him, it was like he's like, oh, I'm trying to become myself. He's so cool. It's like, okay, dude, come on now. Be yourself. Be your authentic self. Don't try to copy your like the alternate version of yourself. But he's so cool.
Yeah, the Klingon Pup where she said Max Grodenchek and Chase Masterson reprised their work. I knew they reprised their work last season. Wasn't sure if Curzon was the same actor because I don't know his actual real life status. I assume it's, like I said, the original actor because they used Curzon.
If they're alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're using other ones, I'm sure they're using all the other ones.
Because, I mean, they could have just used Jadzia because, I mean, Terry Farrell's definitely still alive or.
Yeah. Hey, it worked out. It's solid. Do you have a favorite character? Which character story did you like the most? I liked Mariner. I always like her. She's fun.
Mariner's fun. I like Tindy. Because last time we spoke about Lower Decks, we were really worried Tindy was turned evil.
Gonna go evil.
Well, because she was just good the entire time, and like even trying to pirate as good of a person as she could be. So I'm a little bit sad that they like had that like evil look in her eyes at the very end of season 4. Then I'm glad it turned out to be nothing.
You and I both had the same thoughts that she did have like an evil eye, and we didn't talk about it before we talked about her having like an evil eye at the end of that season. But then they got to this season, it's like it never, like no evil eye ever happened. So I don't know, maybe you and I were reading too much into it.
I mean, I don't know, but it was just weird. Like she's had this weird, like her face just changed and looked relatively evil. So I don't know why they did that, but I'm glad it turned out to be nothing.
It did turn out to be nothing.
And
she's also, they're all good characters. I like Rutherford too. He's kind of cool. At the end of this one, he's like he removed his
cyborg implants.
I don't know what the heck that was about. I thought he was like a robot the whole time pretty much, but then he like removed it and he's actually just a human. He's like a cyborg guy, but not anymore. He wants to be more human, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What was the purpose for he just wanted to remove it so he could be more relatable? Like I didn't even know that was like something he was struggling with the whole time.
Well, remember it's season 3 or season 4, like they had that whole subplot where like someone implanted something in his chip to take him over. So it was like some kind of conspiracy to kind of make him into a robot, but then he just got used to it and liked it. But then he saw the version of him that became more of a robot, and so he kind of rebelled against that in the final episode. So he was like, "Oh, you're so cool! You've got so many robot parts." And then he just kind of wanted to be him, kind of like Boimler did. But then he realized at the end, it's like, no, maybe I should just be all me. So he gets rid of it because he needed to get rid of it to stay in love with the Cerritos.
I want to stay with the Cerritos. And then Mariner's mom, she's also gone. Do you think we'll ever see any of these characters again? Do you think they'll ever like bring them to like another show?
God, I hope so. I mean, like, if they do a Star Trek Legacy TV show, there's no reason they couldn't have the crew of the Cerritos show up on an episode. But, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people have given up ever seeing any hope of Star Trek Legacy coming out because...
What's Star Trek Legacy?
So at the end of Star Trek Picard, they teased they were going to do like a Star Trek Legacy because basically the end of the show had like an after credits cliffhanger where it seemed like they would have, if they were going to make another show, it would be this crew and Q coming back and all this other great Star Trek stuff. And it would just carry on as a sequel to Picard season 3. It would be its own show with this new crew on the Enterprise G. So that would have been fun, but like Mike, the showrunner of that show, Terry Matalas, he's moved on to some other project because they never greenlit Star Trek Legacy. So Star Trek Legacy is looking less and less likely, unfortunately. There's the whole Skydance takeover of Paramount, or not Paramount, but the Star Trek license.
Yeah.
There's discussion of like putting Star Trek
Is that
on
a good thing? Do we want that to happen? What do we want to happen? All I know is we want Alex Kurtzman to go away.
As long as it makes this would theoretically make Alex Kurtzman go away. So this is probably a good thing. I've heard rumors online that Skydance might close down Star Trek for a couple of years, give it some rest, and then bring it back. But this would be after Strange New Worlds has finished its like 5th season, which I think is like supposedly scheduled to do. Maybe it's a lot of like stuff up in the air with the whole Skydance acquisition. So
Okay.
my hope is they can just get rid of Alex Kurtzman, let Star Trek, have a breather, let it rest, let it heal.
It's out on the streets. It's got stabbed.
Yeah, let it heal, let it recuperate, and then bring in a showrunner and someone who oversees the whole of Star Trek, someone who actually cares about it and is a fan of Star Trek, unlike Alex Kurtzman, who's just ran most of the series into the ground. I mean, it's partly why Lower Decks is so good, because he's had little to no involvement with Lower Decks. So I mean,
before we just started podcasting, we were trying to figure out why Lower Decks was getting canceled or ended or whatever, not renewed or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that like most of the voice actors, there were some people that worked on the show, the showrunner for the shows, all of them was like, we still want to keep doing this, but like it's not up to us. You said Alex Kurtzman's like the only one that's like above that'd be able to make a decision like that. I'm sure there's other people.
I mean, there's other people above, but Alex Kurtzman is like the head of Star Trek.
If he wanted it, he could get it, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if he got rid of the dumb idea that is Star Trek Academy, that would be great. I mean, Star Trek Academy has been a rumor in the works for decades. Like, I remember back in the 90s, they were talking about doing a Star Trek Academy, like during Kirk's era or during Picard's era. Like they've been talking about doing an Academy show for forever. And I'm not super interested in Star Trek Academy in that era. But the Star Trek Academy they're going to make is basically a sequel to Star Trek Discovery in the 29th century or the 39th, whatever. They went way 900 years into the future. And I don't care about Discovery, so I'm not gonna involve myself with the Academy. Like I said, it's not a concept I was super excited for in an era of Star Trek where I like, but Discovery's in an era I don't like, and so I'm like, it's my interest is cratered for this idea of a show, and it's supposedly greenlit for 2 seasons. So. Ugh. But yeah, so Star Trek needs to just run its course. It needs to go to sleep for a couple years, recuperate.
Do they need to like completely start over?
Yeah, they need to just undo everything Kurtzman did, basically.
Oh no, that's like what they're gonna do. What they did with like Star Wars, it just like got made like a press conference one day, like a couple years ago, and they're just like, we're retconning everything. That's what they need to do for Star Trek.
Yeah, all of Kurtzman's...
I don't know. I just wish they would make more Lower Decks, because it's like the one show that like I know at least consistently for the past like 5 years or however long it's been going, where it's just like consistently like a fun, good show to watch, instead of like you don't have to worry about like, is this movie going to be good, or am I going to go like watch another garbage movie or another garbage show or something like that. It's just like it's been consistently super good.
Great. I mean, I think it's even gotten better. The first season I wasn't in love. The first season I wasn't in love with. I felt like Mariner was too much of a cartoon character.
Yeah, you're too much cartoony
to be a real, because it's supposed to be canon, and so
talk about character development though, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
definitely not the same.
She's grown as a character. She acts more like a regular human being. I mean, I know they are a cartoon, but it's supposed to be real. I mean, we had the crossover with Strange New Worlds, which is the best episode of Strange New Worlds in my opinion, because we got to see live action Boiler and live action Mariner. So I thought that was great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from season 1, she was like super cartoony, like Cartoon Network-esque. It kind of is like what she felt like. And now this season, she like met her counterpart, and then like pretty much her season is just like she's trying to like decide like how like adult do I become. And there's times where she like brings up, she's like, oh, I can't act like that anymore. I'm I'm not a child or whatever, or however that she puts it.
Mm-hmm.
So she definitely evolved as a character.
I mean, I love the Klingon episode where they the Klingons are making wine, and then they end up becoming a captain,
Yeah.
and but they're the captain of their own little shuttlecraft, and they just like bring wine around. That was great, but then it came up later, and they had the whole time where they hit one of the brothers in the ship. It was great. Love some Klingon
It's just
stuff.
fun. I
Yeah.
also like that like everything's mostly resolved episode to episode. I would have liked to see it more like, I don't know, just like kind of like, I guess the story is they're just like living their lives, but like every episode is like resolved within itself, and I do like that. But part of me also wishes there was like some huge overarching story, which there kind of is, but like not really. So
Well, you
I
got to
guess
watch
that's my-
Star Trek Discovery. I'm not Discovery. You got to watch. I mean, you got to watch Deep
the
Space
show that
Nine.
you've been saying is terrible.
Yeah, no. I mean, no, not Discovery. Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is the one with an overarching story that's good. Granted, it doesn't technically really get started till season 4, but I mean, there's seeds. There's seeds in
Sure.
in the previous seasons. Which
Sure.
once we run out of stuff to do, we're gonna have to jump back into Deep Space Nine. I think we've only done season 1, so we've got 6 more seasons.
Yeah, we did season 1.
We got 6 more seasons of Deep Space Nine.
Oh my gosh, the problem is it's not as good as Lower Decks to me. It's not as good, man. Lower Decks to me is like it can't there's no way it's gonna get any better. It can't get better. It can only get worse for me.
Lower Decks is great. I mean, but granted, you watched season 1, you gave it a relatively low score of Deep Space Nine, which I mean, which totally fair. Like I said when we originally talked about season 1 of Deep Space Nine, if I had only seen season 1 of Deep Space Nine, I would give it a low score as well. The funny thing is, like once I've watched Deep Space Nine all the way through, and then went back and watched season 1 again, season 1 was so much better because of the context of everything. It's absolutely bizarre that like a season you didn't like is better in context with the rest of the series.
We'll have to see when we maybe later this year we'll get back to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I hope so. It's a great show.
Maybe Mariner will be in it.
I wish. But yeah, so overall, if you haven't watched Lower Decks, all 5 seasons are worth a watch. Season 1's the weakest, but it picks up steam.
I think it's just progressive. Each season just gets better and better. I think this one might be. I don't know. I don't know what ratings I gave each season. I don't remember, but just the show's just solid from pretty much beginning to end. Even after season 1, I remember now that we have the whole narrative, the whole stories done. I remember season 1 not liking season 1 as much as I liked this season. So I would imagine each season just got a little bit better. But all of them are. I did like all of them. I like this show. It's a good show.
Absolutely. Like each season it was better than the one before, and like I said, this one I can't pick one episode that I didn't like. Like they were all solid. And all the previous seasons had at least one where I was like, I don't really want to watch that one again.
Yeah. I mean, it's also it's refreshing too that after you a show's good when like you and I don't have like a ton to say about it, because it's just like it's good. It's just objectively a good show. We don't really have to complain about anything. We don't really need to say it. It's just good. Go watch it. This is what you need to go do now if you aren't even a Star Trek fan, which I'm not. We're like polar opposites of Star Trek people, and both you and I are pretty much as far apart as we can be when it comes to Star Trek, and we're both like, yeah, this is a very good show.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing. With my near encyclopedic knowledge of Star Trek, and you with absolutely no knowledge of Star Trek, we both adore this show, and it's just. I mean, there's so many in jokes that you're just completely missing.
Yeah, but I don't. You clearly don't need to understand or have those to still like really enjoy the show either.
Well, that just makes the show even more brilliant. That you're still enjoying the show, even not getting the in jokes, which is like for me, like half the show is getting all the in jokes. Or oh, what was that about? And I try to look up what was the joke that I missed that I knew was there because I recognized something. And I was like, let me go look that up.
Got to figure it out.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's cool. It's just a really well show. This show's a love letter to Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like it feels like Star Trek: The Next Generation in a way, and the Star
They
Trek:
used
The
to
Next
like lick.
Generation.
Did they also lick like panels in that show too?
I mean, just about every episode, Picard especially. No.
I that was that part with I forgot what episode it was, but Rutherford and Boimler are like they have to like eat the like food or something that got on like the teleporter panel or something like that. It was
the episode where they met Data on the planet.
Okay, it was that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one was. I enjoyed all of them, but I thought that was kind of funny. It was just like they're just like licking they're supposed to be like these serious characters, and they're just like licking the panels. Boimler's trying to become like this like perfected adult version of himself, and he's like licking a panel. Oh man, yeah, it's a good show. There's not a ton to say about it. It's just go watch it. You need to go watch it if you haven't.
Absolutely, go check out Star Trek Lower Decks, and while you're at it, go check out Deep Space Nine, because that's my favorite personally of the shows. You know, maybe before we do the next season of Deep Space Nine, maybe we should just do one episode of Next Generation, the one called Lower Decks, the one where this show gets its name from. Yeah, there is.
It stole its name. Where's the people that write for this show? Who's the writers for this show? Because obviously they need to know a lot about Star Trek. If there's all these Easter eggs and stuff, somebody somewhere has got to be like. Well,
the showrunner, Mike Mahan, he's a big Star Trek fan. He's in the weeds, and like the show is, you know, named after an episode of TNG, and the show is a love letter to TNG. So it is. Gotcha. I mean, this is as peak as Star Trek gets under Alex Kurtzman, because I don't think he touched it.
Gotcha. Okay, well, fair enough. Fair enough. We like the showrunner. He seems like a good guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Email David at synthaholics@yahoo.com. Watch Lower Decks, all 5 seasons.
In one day.
Yeah, one day. And then after you're done, come tell us what you think about Mariner, because she's the best character in the show.
Get it in your brain.
Even though, do you like? Is Tendi your favorite? Is she your favorite character?
Tendi's still my favorite. I love me some Orion women, people.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Tendi. Tendi's my favorite. It's about time we've had an Orion as a main character, not just as a side character.
She's a main character.
Mm-hmm.
Gets back to the Cerritos. What, like episode 3, 4, 2? One of those.
It's pretty early. Yeah.
They all blend together when you watch them all at once.
Yep. That's how they do. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Jen, for rating us again, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
On Synthaholics.